All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. Daily vlog number, I think it's the 308. And today, I'm still playing the hell out of Veilguard. Did an entire kind of first impressions thing about it yesterday. So I'm not going to go into crazy details here. I am going to mention something that's been annoying the hell out of me with the game, and part of me wonder. I don't. I don't think this could be the problem, but I have to mention it just in case somebody brings it up. So when I play, uh, when I play games in general, I will almost always put the dynamic range to night mode, because all it does is it squishes the dynamic range down so that I don't have to like pump up the volume so much when they're speaking very quietly that when an explosion happens, it literally shakes my room. I've never enjoyed that. I've always, here's the weird thing, I've always lived in a house or somewhere where other people exist and maybe they don't want to experience the exact same thing that I'm experiencing. I know, strange, right? So I always play on night mode, which means the dynamic range. The softest is still pretty easy to hear, and the loudest is not massively loud; just shrinks it down. So one of the things that's been annoying me about the game is the voice acting cast. The actual voice actors, as far as I can tell, are relatively skilled at what they do. But I haven't had a chance to actually look up who's actually voice directing this. But whomever did the voice directing, they sucked. And what I mean by that is the lines themselves are coming out perfectly fine. It's not that I'm having a hard time understanding them, but they come out so incredibly flat. And from an acting perspective, like a lot of people think flat is in maybe monotone, and I don't mean that. Like there's some pitch variety, but there's been a couple different times where there's been really emotional scenes, and the kind of modulation within the voice. Because I have a relatively expressive voice, and a lot of that has to do with my acting training, public speaking training, and I just have a naturally emotive voice. So you'll notice when I speak, my pitch travels a lot of different places. Sometimes I'll be really down low, sometimes I'll get really high, and the volume of my speech changes on a fairly regular basis. Sometimes I'll get a little quieter, sometimes I'll get really loud, without having to like scream or anything like that. That's what a really expressive voice is like. There's highs and there's lows. It gets quiet, it gets loud. None of the characters have, at least none of the companions, have any sort of expressive voice. They do have pitch modulation, like they're not all talking like this or anything, but volume wise, they don't really get louder and softer. And again, some people are going to bring it, well, you just said that you had a night mode, so the quality of my voice changes when I get louder and when I get quieter. Like the actual timbre of my voice changes. So even if I go into a program and I normalize the volume so that the actual volume that you guys hear is relatively consistent, you can still tell when I'm raising my voice and when I'm speaking quieter, because the actual timbre of the voice, the parts of my voice box that I'm using change, and the resonance that I'm using changes. That's how I'm able to sound louder. A lot of people think the only way to sound louder is to yell, which involves putting a lot of stress on your vocal cords. And it is an effective way to sound louder, but it's not an effect. You can do that to sound louder. However, it's an extremely unhealthy way to sound louder. It actually causes damage to your vocal cords. So anyone that has to regularly do public speaking, do theater training, learns this trick called projection. And what projection is you support your breath, you kind of tense your diaphragm so that you're putting a lot of air through your vocal cords, and you open up as many different resonating chambers as you can. And for me personally, I'm a very big person. Like, I'm overweight, yes, but I'm also just a very big person in general. Even when I was in good shape, I still looked a little bit heavyset because I actually have big bones. I'm fat, and I have big bones. And my skeletal structure is very wide. And when I was like 20 or 22 or 23, I got a final kind of growth spurt around that time where I went from I used to be about 6'2", in high school and some of college, and then I grew another to 2-ish inches from the time I left college until I was 25, 26, and my shoulders broadened. My shoulders didn't broaden until I got to college. So I have this really, really big chest. And so when I want to project, I open up all of the resonating chambers and I allow my voice to resonate in my chest as much as I can. And it sounds very, very loud, but that's really all it is. And then if I really need to sound loud, in addition to opening up my chest, I'll also open up all the resonating chambers in my head, and it just sounds very, very different. Again, even if I was to go and normalize this so that all the volume levels were the same, you guys would still be able to tell when my voice is changing. And these actors just aren't doing that. And the fact that every single actor is making the exact same choice of we're going to have relatively flat deliveries is not something that generally happens by accident. Most of these actors have enough credits to their name that they understand the idea, especially voice acting. Voice acting is all about dynamic shifts and that you have to put all of the emotion into your voice. And they're just not doing it. And to me, that points to a voice direction issue. And it could be the voice director dropped the ball, or it could be someone that, and this is something my brother and I had a conversation about this, the idea that a lot of times executives will force decisions further down the pipeline that no one down there would ever make because they know they're monumentally stupid, but because the executive just has no knowledge of what's going on, they go, no, this will totally work. We used to see it all the time in retail where the store that I worked in for probably about half of my career in office supplies, we'll leave it at that, was actually a pilot store. And what that meant was anytime the company was trying something new, my store would get it first. And generally how that would work is they would send us, because they're ingenious, they would send us a printed PowerPoint presentation. I'm not kidding you here. They would send us a printed PowerPoint presentation, and I would have to go through all the slides, and the slides would be how we were supposed to train our team to do these new services or to sell these new products. And nearly 100% of the time, the slides themselves were next to useless because they gave the marketing talking points, but they didn't give me anything that I could really use to train someone to sell the items. Marketing talking points are useful. They're not great for sales. They're great for commercials, and they're great for press releases. But in an actual sales environment, you actually have to be able to take the marketing talking points and translate them into something that a customer actually wants. 99 out of 100 to the times, I would have to take the nonsense that they gave me and I would have to translate it into something that was useful. And every so often, we would get sales trainers that would come in. They were corporate sales trainers. Most of them had never worked in a store ever. But they had some sort of degree in marketing, and they assumed that meant that they could sell things. So they would come in and they would have these sales training sessions with my to the teams, or sometimes they'd have sales training sessions with The sales specialist is that was my official job title. At one point, my job title changed like 4 times because they just couldn't leave well enough alone, and they hated calling us managers. So they would come in and do the sales training, and the sales techniques that they would teach were worthless. They were so bad. There were things like, don't take no, or don't take the first no for an answer. It's a fantastic idea. It teaches really bad sales technique. The actual sales technique you should be teaching is, if they say no, find out why they're saying no. Not, don't take no for an answer. That will teach very predatory sales techniques that generally, in the short term, work relatively well. They will get people that are a little bit more hesitant to buy something, but then once they leave the store, they're going to get buyer's remorse like crazy, even if it was something that they really, really wanted, and they're not going to come back to your store. So in the long term, it hurts sales. However, there are a lot of people that as soon as I walked up to them, I would go, hey, my name's Jody, what can I help you with? They would go, no, I don't need to know anything from you. I know more than you do. And that was a result of them just assuming that because I was a salesman, I was going to lie and cheat and steal from them. And so that was them telling me no. And almost every single time, if someone goes, I know more than you do, my response was generally, it's theoretically possible, not probable though. I used to fix these for a living before I started doing this. But if you don't want help, it's perfectly fine. If you do have any questions, let me know. I'm going to be around. And a lot of times that was enough for them to go, wait a minute, what? Because I would rebut what they were saying. I know more than you. No, I used to fix these for a living. Sorry. But then I would also, instead of being kind of confrontational, condescending of, listen, dumbo, I know more than you do. You'll listen to what I say. I would go, no, I used to fix these for a living. However, I understand that you don't want to talk to me, so be very non-confrontational. When you do have questions, let me know. I'm going to be around here, no pressure. And that's not what they were expecting. They were expecting me to be very, very pushy and force them to buy the thing that they didn't want. And I simply went, no, I actually absolutely know what I'm talking about. That's what they pay me for. And I'm not here to sell you something. I'm here to help you get the thing that you want. And it was unbelievably effective. No one would ever teach that, because that requires a lot of thought and a little knowledge of psychology. And so anyway, it's theoretically possible that the reason that all of these performances are so flat is because they had just a bad voice director. It's also theoretically possible that an executive decided, no, we want them all to sound like this, not understanding anything about voice acting. Either way, it's not good. Again, it's not bad enough that I stopped playing the game. I am now at 21 hours in this game. I'm really, really enjoying and having a lot of fun with the game. It wouldn't be 21 hours in if I didn't. But man, as an actor, it really upsets me to see, because they have, I think almost every character I've dealt with has had one of those after school special style moments. One of those moments where they get very serious and they talk about something traumatic in their past and you're supposed to care about them, but they deliver the lines so flatly. And they sound just like they're just normally talking, that it completely takes me out of those scenes. And I don't care about the characters anywhere near as much as I should. The one exemption to that I've seen thus far has been Emmerich, the necromancer. And I think it's because Emmerich is a caricature. He's not intended to be a serious character. And so I think either the voice director or someone higher up allowed the actor to just kind of have fun with the role and be a little bit sillier and do some more interesting things. And because of that, the character's significantly more likable and significantly more interesting to listen to the two. Which surprises the hell out of me, because that was the one character when I saw their character design, I'm like, okay, we have a necromancer in the party. That's cool. I mean, what's his face? Dorian was a necromancer too, but I adored Dorian. Dorian was one of the coolest dudes in Inquisition. He was my buddy in almost every. Just like Lucanus in Veilguard is my bro, and I take him everywhere with me. That was Dorian. Dorian, I just loved Dorian so much. Always made him a fire mage, so he'd be slinging fireballs and then doing the necromancy thing. He was so much fun. Loved Dorian. Now Lucanus is my new Dorian. And he's a cool dude, and not going to spoil anything about him other than the fact that he is most definitely Spanish, because he has this amazing Spanish accent. He's just cool. Love him to death. I want more Lucanus. Yeah, I will say Lucanus and most of the Antivan crows tend to have a little bit more variety in their voice, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they all speak with a Spanish accent, and so for whatever reason, the Spanish accent in and of itself is a relatively expressive accent. Again, watch anything that Antonio Banderas has ever done. He's just a remarkably expressive person. So yeah, other than those two little bright points, it's upsetting. Because again, it's not like they don't have the talent. It just, people are making decisions that are actively making the game worse. Not bad enough that I'm not playing it, but bad enough I'm like, dude, seriously? Again? How do you, like, you had to intentionally decide that this was the dumb idea that you wanted to do. Again, the idea that all of these actors separately all decided to give the same flat to performance isn't really possible. They had to have realized, oh, this is a bad performance, and had to have been directed into it, because again, it's so universal that it can't just be an acting choice. It has to be a direction choice. Anyway, so that's what I've been doing. I would have loved to make a video about something else, but I am very much obsessed with this game right now. So, anyway, that's all for me today. I will see you guys in the next time. All right? Bye-bye.